Good evening. I am Tony Dottino, and this is my 7 o'clock Wednesday evening. I'll keep track of the days. Live with Tony broadcast. I am the founder of the USA Memory Championship, and I've been doing a series of Live with Tony broadcasts that really expands on what we have included in our Maximum Memory Mastery online course. And I've been putting more information in there on my Live with Tonys that are extensions of some of the lesson plans that are included in that online course, and expanding the things that we call the important factors that are vital to your brain health. And so I've taken one of the lessons in there and I expanded by each of the 6 major points. So for example, things important to your brain health are mental challenges, how you handle stress, how you get your right amount of sleep, what do you do in terms of nutritional habits, what do you do in terms of your stress. And tonight we're going to link an article that comes out of the October issue of Psychology Today that talks about how are we designed, how humans are designed for success. And that is going to tie to some of the lessons I've been covering over the last several weeks. And in this particular lesson, we're going to talk about resilience. And I've been highlighting what I call some of the latest science research with things that I want to cover that are add-ons and that are unique and that complement that which I've already gotten out there. So I was surprised in reading this that, I thought of resilience. So bounce out to my Live Tony audience. How do you define resilience? When you think of people that are resilient, what are the characteristics that you believe that they have? And so it was interesting to see that when we think of resilience as something people have and how we describe it, it's a little bit different as I read through this article in terms of how it's defined. And therefore, I think it opens up the concept that the writer is describing as it's part of our own nature. It's part of something that's as a part of us. So let's go through it. Resilience defined as the process of the capacity for or outcome of successful adapting of challenges and threatening circumstances. So the fast forward is, how do we respond to challenging or threatening circumstances would be their definition of resilience. And I think in today's environment, we're all confronted with challenging and or threatening experiences. And if we're resilient, we are adapting to those and we're working towards creating our own natural outcomes. So I'm fascinated to go on that it really did a nice job in the article of defining what are some of the characteristics of people who are resilient. So if I were asking my Live with Tony audience, so how and what would you have defined as some of the characteristics of how do you deal with the challenges and or the problems that you get confronted with in your life, and whether it be our present challenges that we have and the threat and the fear that it creates in terms of the virus that we have been dealing with for the last 8 months, or challenges that you've got in your own life in terms of your work and your family and your kids and spouse or your parents. How do you deal with that? And it was interesting to note in the article what the characteristics were. So what I've decided to do is take a few of these and I tie them back to our Maximum Memory Mastery. And what continues to amaze me in that is the ingredients exist in the Maximum Memory Mastery if we can get people to utilize the skills that we teach in there. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in a few minutes. because I'm going to take you through at least a few of the characteristics this evening, and I'll probably do this in two parts because there is so much, as you can see from my notes here. I've been starring, and it's like reading each paragraph. It's like I got to share this with my audience. So I'm going to take a few of these stars, and we'll share this with your audience, with my Live with Tony audience, and tie it back to the maximum memory mastery, which we've done over and over. So, for example, a characteristic of resilience, and people who are resilient, obviously they are adaptive in solving problems, meaning challenges that they're confronted with, they adapt to those problems by working on finding solutions for them, as opposed to finding the problems just weight them down so much that they just think, like sometimes I say to people, it's like, do you believe that God has personally done it to you? As opposed to, Norman Vincent Peale, years ago, I listened to one of his tapes, and it was amazing to me, as Norman Vincent Peale, who I just loved and learning from, talked about, if you want to have some people without problems, go up to a cemetery, and those are the folks that have gotten rid of all their problems, except they're not alive anymore. So life will have its problems, and life will have its ups and downs. And so the first characteristic of people that are resilient is they have a characteristic of being adaptive in how they solve their own problems. And therefore, it requires that they navigate the environment of what the problems are more successfully than those that just kind of feel that the weight of the world just falls on their shoulders. It obviously is a level of problem-solving skills and their creativity. So what I like about our maximum memory mastery is some of the teachings we do in there are to get people to realize we have an infinite amount of brain power. Through the biology of science today, or through the work of science, we now know that our biology has an amazing amount of horsepower, brain power, in what we are capable of doing in terms of our memories as well as our creativity. And there's a strong linkage between creativity and memory, and therefore we want people to understand that that mental capacity exists within all of us. And so being resilient says, do I know how to draw on that infinite power and use it? Now, what are one of the elements in terms of using it? Well, the second element then is our personality. And when we talk about our personality, this breaks it down to our emotional stability. And our emotional stability is, how do we maintain our emotions and not overreact to stressful, challenging situations? And do we have a tendency to be outgoing, sociable, and expressive? And can we be looked at as being reliable? So now we're back to our lessons on, well, it's as simple as remembering people's names and faces. And if you want to be sociable with people, the first thing you obviously want to do in your group of social groupings and distancing in today's environment is you want to be able to remember people's names and faces. And one of the things that we've done in our live workshops, and one of the things that we've got in the online course, is obviously, so what are some of the techniques that are fun and easy and pleasant to use that help you to remember people's names with their face and some things about them? And so here comes, our personalities, and it talks about, it's really simple. We are hardwired as humans to be social animals. Now, I don't like the word animals, but we're hardwired to be social beings. And so if we're hardwired to be social beings, one of the skills that we've got to be good at and adapting to socializing with people is, how do we remember their names along with their face and some interesting, fun things about them, so that as we see them the next time, whenever that may be, we can spontaneously click off some of the things that we remember from the last conversation and maintain a level of social connectiveness. When we realize we have that social connectiveness, now what does that help us to avoid? Some things I've been talking about for several weeks now, especially with COVID-19, isolation and loneliness. So we have this amazing ability for social adapting that minimizes our isolation and loneliness and helps us to be more of a problem solver, part of a group, and feeling that we have people that will help support us and we don't feel like we're all alone in dealing with the challenges of our day. So that's the first part. I'm going to do several parts on this. As you can see from my notes here, if you may not see, this is a really good article. It had a number of tips, and I'm going to take these tips apart, and I will pick up another section of this in tomorrow's broadcast, which I will do sometime on Thursday afternoon. So that is it for my Live with Tony on Wednesday evening, and we'll see you with another part of this tomorrow in the 3 o'clock time period. Till then, have a good evening, and I'm liking the comments, and I appreciate the notes that people are sending me. My personal email is adottino@aol.com, and I do appreciate the notes that I've been getting, and making a difference and making life a little bit easier to deal with and a little bit less challenging as we go through some difficult times that we're all dealing with together.